Hey everyone, welcome back. Before we begin, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for subscribing, supporting the channel, and following these book journeys with us. Today's video is different because instead of breaking a book into episodes, we're doing something bigger. Today, we're diving into one complete journey through The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. This is one of those books people either love or completely misunderstand. Some people see it as a guide to manipulation. Others see it as a manual for understanding people. But maybe the real point of this book is simpler than that. Power exists, whether we notice it or not. In workplaces, relationships, politics, business, friendships, every group of people creates invisible rules. And Robert Greene's argument is, if you don't understand those rules, someone else probably does. So today, we're walking through the biggest ideas from this entire book. Not to become ruthless, not to control people, but to become more aware. Let's begin. Power is usually invisible. Most people imagine power dramatically. A king, a CEO, someone standing at the top. But Greene starts from a different idea. Power often appears quietly. It lives in attention, influence, timing, reputation, position, perception. Think about two people, same intelligence, same skills, same opportunities, but somehow one moves forward faster. People listen to them, trust them, remember them. Why? Greene suggests that results alone rarely explain influence. People respond emotionally, socially, strategically, and power often comes from understanding that. Law 1. Never outshine the master. This is one of the most famous ideas in the entire book, and also one of the most misunderstood. Greene says, people above you want competence, but they also want to feel secure. Imagine someone helps build your career, mentors you, opens doors, and suddenly you make them feel unnecessary. What happens? Even if they admire you, they may unconsciously resist you. Greene's lesson isn't hide your talent. His point is, understand ego. People support growth more easily when they still feel respected. One of the most underrated skills in life is helping people feel valued while still moving forward. Law 2. Don't trust blindly. Greene argues that trust should not be automatic, not because people are evil, but because circumstances change, interests change, people change. This section isn't saying become suspicious of everyone. It's saying observe patterns, listen carefully, pay attention to actions. People reveal themselves slowly, and often far more through behavior than words. Reputation is an asset. One of the strongest ideas in this book is reputation. Greene treats reputation almost like currency, because before people know you, they know your story. Before people work with you, they hear impressions. Before people trust you, they evaluate signals. And that creates an important question. If someone described you in one sentence, what would they say? Reliable? Creative? Difficult? Strategic? Invisible? Greene's point isn't image over substance. It's understanding that substance alone is often not enough. People notice what they can see. Attention changes everything. One of the recurring themes in this book is attention. People often believe that doing good work automatically creates recognition. Sometimes, but not always. History is full of brilliant people who stayed unnoticed, and average people who became unforgettable. Why? Because visibility matters. Communication matters. Presence matters. Greene repeatedly reminds readers, if nobody notices value, value struggles to create opportunity. But attention without substance eventually collapses. The strongest position combines both. Say less than necessary. This law became famous for a reason. People often talk too much, explain too much, reveal too much, promise too much. Greene suggests something interesting. People who speak less often appear more confident, more deliberate, more composed, not because silence is magic, but because restraint creates space. People project meaning. They become curious. They pay attention. Think about the strongest communicators. Many of them aren't loud. They're intentional. Learn the emotional game. One thing Greene understands extremely well. People believe decisions are logical, but emotions quietly shape everything. Recognition, status, fear, validation, respect, belonging. Understanding this doesn't make someone manipulative. It makes them observant, because human beings rarely operate from pure logic. The person who understands emotional dynamics often understands outcomes before they happen. Power without self-control becomes weakness. This might be the most important idea in the entire first half of the book. Greene repeatedly shows examples of powerful people destroying themselves, not because of enemies, because of ego, anger, overconfidence, impatience, pride, impulse. People think power means control over others. Greene quietly suggests, real power begins with control over yourself, and that changes everything. Because, suddenly, the strongest person in the room isn't always the loudest. Sometimes, it's the calmest. We're just getting started, because in the next section of this Fool Book podcast, we'll enter some of the most controversial and fascinating laws in the entire book. Strategy, timing, human psychology, and why influence often depends more on perception than force. Power becomes more interesting when Robert Greene starts talking about something uncomfortable, because people like to believe outcomes are fair. Work hard, be honest, do your best, and everything works out. But Greene argues that reality is more complicated, because people do not react only to reality. People react to interpretation, to timing, to appearance, to emotion. Learn to see before you move. One of the strongest patterns in this book is observation. Greene repeatedly shows historical figures who acted slowly, not because they lacked confidence, because they gathered information. Most mistakes happen when people react too quickly. Someone criticizes you. Immediate response. Someone disagrees. Immediate defense. Something goes wrong. Immediate action. But power often belongs to people who wait, who notice, who understand incentives, who recognize patterns, who ask, what is actually happening here? Not, what does it feel like is happening? Because emotions create urgency. Strategy creates clarity. Timing changes outcomes. Imagine saying the right thing at the wrong time. Wrong result. Imagine making the perfect move. Too early. Wrong result. Greene repeatedly returns to timing. The same action can look brilliant or foolish, depending on when it happens. Most people focus only on action, but influence often comes from timing. Knowing when to push, comma, when to wait, when to stay invisible, when to become visible. This isn't manipulation. It's awareness. The need to be liked. This section becomes surprisingly psychological. Because Greene points out something many people never admit. People want approval. People want recognition. People want to be seen as good. Nothing wrong with that, until approval starts controlling decisions. Then people begin hiding opinions, avoiding risks, changing behavior, living reactively. Greene's observation is simple. If your identity depends entirely on approval, other people quietly control your direction. That doesn't mean becoming cold. It means becoming stable. Never build on emotion alone. One of the biggest mistakes Greene describes is emotional decision-making. Anger creates blind spots. Excitement creates blind spots. Fear creates blind spots. Ego creates blind spots. History is full of people who lost everything in moments. Not because they lacked ability, because they lost perspective. Power without emotional discipline becomes unstable. Think about people who seem calm under pressure. Usually, they aren't emotionless. They simply delay reaction. That pause changes outcomes. Human nature rarely changes. One reason this book became so famous is because Greene studies recurring patterns. Different centuries, different countries, different leaders, similar behaviors, ambition, fear, status, jealousy, recognition, competition, belonging. Technology changes. Human nature often changes slowly. And Greene suggests something interesting. If you understand recurring human patterns, you become less surprised, less reactive, more prepared. The difference between confidence and performance. There's another quiet lesson hidden throughout this book. Power doesn't always belong to the strongest. Sometimes it belongs to the person who appears most certain. That sounds unfair, but think about it. People trust confidence. People follow clarity. People move towards certainty. Greene isn't saying fake competence. He's saying presentation matters. Because people cannot see potential. They see signals. The strongest combination is real skill plus clear communication. Choose your battles. One of the most mature ideas in the book is this. Not every conflict deserves energy. Some arguments waste attention. Some victories create unnecessary enemies. Some fights create losses even when you win. Greene repeatedly shows examples of people protecting long-term goals instead of short-term emotions. That requires discipline, because emotionally, winning feels good. Strategically, preserving energy is often smarter. The long game. As the book moves forward, it starts becoming less about power over others and more about self-management. People chase influence, money, recognition, status. But Greene keeps returning to a deeper idea. Short-term wins can create long-term losses. Impatience destroys opportunities. Overconfidence destroys relationships. Shortcuts destroy trust. And many powerful people throughout history didn't lose because they lacked intelligence. They lost because success made them careless. The hidden theme of the entire book. By now, you start realizing something. This book isn't secretly about domination. It's about awareness, understanding incentives, understanding people, understanding perception, understanding yourself. Because if you understand nothing about human behavior, you become vulnerable to it. But if you become obsessed with controlling people, you become trapped by it. Greene quietly points towards something more balanced. See clearly, act intentionally, stay disciplined, and maybe that's the real lesson. As life becomes more complex, people often search for more information, more tactics, more hacks. But maybe what matters more is learning to see dynamics clearly. Who has influence? Why? What motivates people? What emotions are shaping decisions? WAT patterns repeat. Those questions often matter more than intelligence. And eventually, you stop seeing life as random. You start seeing incentives, patterns, human behavior, and that changes everything. And now, we arrive at the end, after everything we've explored. Strategy, reputation, timing, ego, observation, human behavior. There's one final question left. What do you actually do with all of this? Because understanding power and becoming controlled by power are not the same thing. So, what is real power? After walking through all of these ideas, something interesting happens. You begin realizing that power isn't always what people think. It isn't volume. It isn't dominance. It isn't winning every room. It isn't making people afraid. Real power starts looking quieter. The ability to stay calm, the ability to choose your response, the ability to understand people without becoming trapped by them, the ability to protect your attention, your values, your direction. That's a different kind of strength, and maybe a stronger one, because anyone can react, anyone can argue, anyone can force, but understanding people, understanding incentives, understanding yourself, that takes practice. The most important pattern in human history. One thing Robert Greene quietly shows throughout this entire book is this: people rarely lose because they lack intelligence. They lose because they become predictable, because they stop observing, because they become emotional, because they underestimate human nature, because they assume everyone sees the world exactly the way they do. And once you start noticing that, you begin changing. You stop taking every conflict personally. You stop chasing every opportunity. You stop needing every argument. You become more intentional, not colder, clearer. The strange truth about influence. Influence isn't created in dramatic moments. It's built gradually. Trust, consistency, presence, discipline, reputation, self-control. People remember how you make them feel. They remember patterns. They remember energy. They remember whether you create confidence or confusion. And over years, those things become opportunities. Relationships, leadership, freedom. That's why influence compounds. Quietly, what this book is really about. People often call the 48 laws of power dangerous, manipulative, aggressive. But after spending time with the ideas, it starts feeling different. This isn't a book telling you to control people. It's a book reminding you that human dynamics already exist, whether you notice them or not. And once you see them, you have choices. You can become cynical or aware. You can become controlling or intentional. You can chase appearances or build substance. Greene doesn't decide that for you. One last thought. Imagine going through life believing outcomes are random, believing influence doesn't matter, believing perception doesn't matter, believing human behavior doesn't matter. Eventually, reality teaches those lessons anyway, so maybe learning them consciously is better. Not to dominate, not to manipulate, not to become someone else, but to become someone who sees clearly, moves carefully, and understands that every room, every opportunity, every relationship contains invisible forces, and the more aware you become, the more freedom you gain. Final summary. Today we explored why power is often invisible, how reputation shapes opportunity, why timing changes outcomes, the emotional side of influence, why observation beats reaction, the role of discipline and self-control, why people repeat patterns across history, and how awareness becomes a form of power. And with that, we've officially reached the end of the 48 Laws of Power. Thank you for staying through this entire journey. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for subscribing and being part of these book deep dives. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe, leave a like, and share it with someone who loves psychology, strategy, history, and understanding people. And remember, the strongest position in life is not controlling everyone around you. It's understanding yourself well enough that very few people can control you. See you in the next book. Take care.